And now I have told you before it comes to pass that when it has come to pass, you might believe. John 14:29. Like many others, I have seen things before they happened. That is, before they appeared in this three-dimensional reality. Life on Earth must follow a predetermined blueprint since man can see an event before it occurs in physical reality. This plan must be emerging slowly into our space from somewhere else, in another realm. It makes sense that anticipated occurrences must have occurred outside of our universe if they were not yet present when they were viewed. From the viewpoint of a man awake in a three-dimensional world, everything that is seen before it happens must be predetermined. Thus the question arises, are we able to alter our future? My purpose in writing these pages is to explore the inherent possibilities within man, to demonstrate that man can indeed alter his future. However, once altered, it forms a new deterministic sequence, starting from the point of interference. The future then unfolds in alignment with the modification made. The most remarkable aspect of man's future is its flexibility. It is determined not by his actions alone, but by his attitudes. The foundation of all things is man's concept of himself. He acts as he does and experiences what he does because his self-concept dictates his reality. If he held a different concept of self, he would behave differently, and as a result, his future would shift accordingly. A change in self-concept automatically alters his destiny. Furthermore, any change in his future experiences reciprocally alters his self-concept. Man often underestimates the power of his assumptions, yet they yield significant effects. Therefore, he must recognize their creative force. All transformations take place in consciousness. The future, though meticulously prepared in advance, offers multiple outcomes. At every moment, we stand at a crossroads, faced with the choice of which path to take. There are two fundamental perspectives possessed by every individual: a natural focus and a spiritual focus. Ancient wisdom refers to these as the carnal mind and the mind of Christ. We may distinguish them as the ordinary waking consciousness governed by the senses and a controlled imagination governed by desire. These two perspectives are exemplified in the passage. The natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, for they are spiritually discerned. 1 Corinthians 2:14. The natural perspective confines reality to the present moment. To the natural mind, the past and future are mere illusions. In contrast, the spiritual view perceives time as a continuum, where events exist as distinct and separate entities, much like objects in space. To the spiritual perspective, the past and future exist simultaneously, forming a present whole. What seems intangible and imaginary to the natural mind appears concrete and objective to the spiritual mind. Our habitual dependence on the senses blinds us to the unseen realities that lie beyond perception. To cultivate the ability to perceive the invisible, we must regularly detach our minds from sensory evidence and focus on an unseen state, mentally engaging with it until it becomes as vivid as physical reality. Concentrated thought directed toward a particular vision excludes other distractions, allowing the invisible to become tangible. By training our consciousness to focus on a desired state, we can bring it into being. The Apostle Paul states, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen." Romans 1:20. This vision, independent of natural faculties, must be awakened and strengthened. Without it, these instructions hold no value, for spiritual truths are spiritually discerned. With practice, we learn that we may modify our destiny to suit our wishes by mastering our imagination. The motivation behind all action is desire. Without desire, we are unable to move a single finger. The impulse of the prevailing desire in our minds at any given time guides every action we conduct. Our urge to change outweighs our desire to stay the same, which is why we break habits. Desires are always driven by a perceived personal gain. The more significant the anticipated benefit, the stronger the desire. There is no such thing as a completely selfless desire, for without the prospect of gain, no action would take place. The spiritual self communicates with the natural self through the language of desire. The key to progress in life and the fulfillment of our dreams lies in obedience to this inner voice. Immediate and unwavering acceptance of the wish fulfilled is the gateway to transformation. To desire a state is to claim it. As Blaise Pascal once said, "You would not have sought me had you not already found me." Man alters his future by assuming the feeling of his wish fulfilled and acting upon that conviction. Assumptions, once accepted as true, shape reality in their own image. The moment a man adopts the feeling of his wish fulfilled, his higher dimensional self orchestrates the necessary conditions for its realization. The most effective way to realize desires is through the power of imagination. The process is simple. First, clearly define your objective. Know exactly what you want. Second, construct a scene that naturally follows the fulfillment of your desire, an event that would logically occur if your wish had already come to pass. Third, relax your body and enter a state akin to sleep. As you drift into a relaxed state, vividly imagine the scene, fully engaging your senses. Feel yourself participating in the event, not merely observing it. Make the imagined experience as real as possible. By consistently applying this technique, man learns to shape his future in accordance with his assumptions. To understand how this works, we must recognize the existence of a higher dimensional world. Observing an event before it occurs implies that the event is predetermined from the perspective of three-dimensional existence. Thus, to alter conditions in this world, we must first alter them in the higher dimensional realm. Time, as we perceive it, is merely a fourth-dimensional measure of experience. Just as a three-dimensional object is more substantial than a two-dimensional one, a four-dimensional existence transcends our familiar three-dimensional world. The more dimensions an object has, the more tangible and real it becomes. In this light, our physical reality is but a shadow of a more expansive, multi-dimensional existence. Understanding this concept enables us to move along time's length, see the future, and alter it as we choose. The world which we perceive as solid and fixed is in fact fluid and responsive to the assumptions we hold. The physical realm is merely an abstraction of a more fundamental and dimensionally larger world. Science may one day provide an explanation for this serial universe, but for now, our focus should be on practical application. How we can use this understanding to transform our lives. By concentrating our attention on an invisible state and sustaining our belief in its reality, we grant it the power to manifest in our tangible world. This book has one primary purpose: to remove the veil of the senses and reveal the limitless possibilities of human consciousness. Transformation does not require great effort. The external world vanishes when we withdraw attention from it. By consistently focusing on our desired state and feeling its reality, we bring it into being. Consciousness is the sole reality, and the persistent assumption of a state will externalize it into objective fact. In meditation, visualize yourself as already embodying the qualities and experiences you desire. See others perceiving you as they would if your assumption were true. In doing so, you affirm your new reality and accelerate its manifestation. Man has, at every moment, the power to choose his future. The world around him is merely a reflection of his inner state. Change your concept of self, and you change the world you experience. Time presents man with a choice of which of several futures he will encounter. But the question arises, how is that possible when the experiences of man, awake in the three-dimensional world, are predetermined? His observation of an event before it occurs implies this ability to change the future. This concept will be clearer if we liken the experiences of life on Earth to a printed page. Similar to how you are currently viewing the words on this page, man experiences occurrences on Earth singly and successively. Consider that each word is a separate sensory experience. Focusing on the first word in the upper left-hand corner and then moving your attention from left to right across the page, allowing it to land on each word individually will help you understand the context and meaning. You have grasped the entire idea by the time your eyes reach the final syllable. But what if you could view the page with, instead of reading it sequentially, all the printed words equally present and decide to rearrange them? By doing so, you could tell an entirely different story, many different stories in fact. A dream is nothing more than uncontrolled four-dimensional thinking, the rearrangement of both past and future sensory impressions. Man seldom dreams of events in the order in which he experiences them when awake. Instead, he usually dreams of two or more events that are separated in time, fused into a single sensory impression. Sometimes in his dream, he so completely rearranges his waking sensory impressions that he does not recognize them when he encounters them in his waking state. For example, I once dreamed that I delivered a package to the restaurant in my apartment building. The hostess said to me, "You can't leave that there." Whereupon the elevator operator gave me a few letters. As I thanked him for them, he in turn thanked me. At this point, the night elevator operator appeared and waved a greeting to me. The following day, as I left my apartment, I picked up a few letters placed at my door. On my way down, I gave the day elevator operator a tip and thanked him for taking care of my mail, whereupon he thanked me for the tip. Later, I overheard a doorman say to a delivery man, "You can't leave that there." As I was about to take the elevator up to my apartment, I was drawn to a familiar face in the restaurant. As I looked in, the hostess greeted me with a smile. That night, I escorted my dinner guests to the elevator, and as I said goodbye, the night operator waved goodnight to me. By simply rearranging a few single sensory impressions that I was destined to encounter, and by fusing two or more of them into singular sensory impressions, I constructed a dream that differed significantly from my waking experience. When we learn to control the movements of our attention in the four-dimensional world, we will be able to consciously create circumstances in the three-dimensional world. We learn this control through the waking dream, where our attention can be maintained effortlessly. Attention minus effort is indispensable to changing the future. In a controlled waking dream, we can consciously construct an event we desire to experience in the three-dimensional world. The sensory impressions we use to construct our waking dream are present realities displaced in time or within the four-dimensional world. In constructing the waking dream, we select from a vast array of sensory impressions, those that, when arranged properly, imply that we have realized our desire. Once the dream is clearly defined, we relax in a chair and induce a state of consciousness akin to sleep, a state that, while bordering on sleep, leaves us in conscious control of our attention. When we achieve this state, we experience in imagination what we would experience in reality if this waking dream were an objective fact. In applying this technique to change the future, it is essential to remember that the only thing occupying the mind during the waking dream is the predetermined action that implies the fulfillment of our desire. The means by which the waking dream becomes physical reality are not our concern. Our acceptance of the waking dream as physical reality wills the means for its fulfillment. To change the future, we must define our objective clearly. We must know exactly what we want. Then we must construct an event that we believe will occur following the fulfillment of our desire, an event that naturally follows the realization of our wish. This event should be one in which the fulfillment of our desire is self-evident. Next, we immobilize the physical body and induce a state of consciousness akin to sleep. Then we mentally immerse ourselves in the proposed action, imagining all the while that we are performing it in the present moment. We must experience in imagination what we would experience in the flesh if our goal were now realized. With the help of the ancient teacher, I can say, "This one thing I do, forgetting those which are behind and reaching forth unto those which are before, I press toward the mark for the prize." Philippians 3:13-14. Experience has convinced me that this is the best way to accomplish my goals, but my numerous failures would prove me dishonest if I claimed to have fully mastered the movements of my attention. A true judgment need not conform to external reality. If I, while imprisoned, suggest to myself that I am free and succeed in believing it, my belief in my freedom is true, though it does not immediately alter my physical circumstances. The ancient teachers warned us not to judge by appearances, for the truth need not conform to the external reality it relates to. Instead, truth is that which sets us free. We are called to deny the evidence of our senses and imagine as true of our neighbor that which makes him free. To know the truth of our neighbor, we must assume he is already that which he desires to be. Any concept of another that falls short of his fulfilled desire cannot be the truth. Instead of acquiring knowledge from formal schooling, my education was almost exclusively devoted to mastering the power of imagination. I spent hours imagining myself to be other than what reason and my senses dictated, until my imagined states became as vivid as reality. Man's imagination is his true self, and the world as imagination sees it is the real world. It is our duty to imagine all that is lovely and of good report. As we meditate, The mind becomes luminous, and imagination, endowed with magnetic power, attracts to us whatever we desire. By intense meditation, I have called things that were not seen as though they were, and the unseen became seen. Using desire and imagination, we can mold the future in harmony with our desires. But we must think only of the lovely and the good, for imagination waits on us indifferently, whether our nature is good or evil. The mind, in a state akin to sleep, is the enchanter's wand, drawing to itself its own affinities. In a dream, when deep sleep falls upon men, the doors to the larger world open. In this state, we slip from our limited three-dimensional reality into a greater one. In this higher world, assumptions manifest immediately. Unlike in our waking world, where there is a delay between assumption and realization, here, the external reality instantly mirrors our inner assumption. By fixing in consciousness that which we desire to realize, we shape the world around us. The ancient teachers knew that consciousness is God. They proclaimed, "He that glorieth, let him glory in his own consciousness." 1 Corinthians 1-31. To transform our world, we must transform our concept of self. As soon as we succeed in changing self, our external world will reflect the change. Who am I is an endless question that we are called to answer. The part we play in the drama of the world depends on our response. Let the feeble declare, "I am strong," Joel 3:10. For a man is as he thinks in his heart.